So I'm joined this morning by two people. Shannon, who runs all of content and services for Roku, and Savitt, who is president of digital at STX. And I'm going to start with Kathy because STX is a very ambitious new company, right? That is got incredibly deep-pocketed funders, both from America and from China, as we learned when we were in Shanghai 2 weeks ago with your boss, that really wants to take on the major studios and everything. And so, you know, on one level, I say, well, didn't Steven Spielberg and David Geffen and, Jeff Katzenberg try that 20 years ago? And your boss said, well, it's different because there's a digital platform now. So could you talk about the role of digital in terms of the overall strategy for a company like STX who wants to upset the business?
Yeah, you used a great example of some incredibly smart, accomplished, creative gurus who've tried a lot of things. I think what we're doing at the end of the day is not trying to build a studio. We're actually trying to build a very new type of media company, and probably the first one that takes a core of its mission to be audience focused. There are a lot of things right now about how entertainment content is both developed, produced, made, monetized, shared, that has nothing to do with the customer. And so we are really a horizontally integrated company where we start with talent, we start with the showrunner, and we say, what screens do we need in order to tell this story arc, and how do we get it in the most number of consumers' hands or eyes going forward? And if you start from that position, your strategies change very much because customers and the way they want to consume content become your compass. And so where I think what gives me a lot of confidence in what we're doing is that we're starting with what customers want and working our way backwards versus, well, this model works for this company and this model works for that company. There is no model right now that is working perfectly for consumers, and we're entering the most disruptive time in entertainment's history. And we're going to try and be one of the people that help set the stage for what that answer is.
So, Steve, for the history of the entertainment business, content providers always had a middleman between them and the customer. They had first the movie theaters, and then they had broadcasters, and then they had cable owners, and they never really knew what the customer was watching or what they wanted. And so it seems to me that what Kathy's saying is maybe data and all that would help. So where does Roku play in this new ecosystem in which Kathy can put her content directly on a Roku platform and know exactly what your customers are watching and how long and whatever?
Yeah, well, you know, it's exciting because the gatekeeper problem is solved. It's basically over. I mean, most Americans are streaming now, so you know, anybody can publish a channel, anybody can distribute a channel. You don't need a deal really with anyone. We have 3,000 channels on Roku. It's an open platform. All you got to do is click a form on the website, and you know, 3 or 4 new channels are launched there every day. And so, you know, despite the fact that the problem has been solved, I think, you know, STX's philosophy, Kathy's philosophy, is still remarkably progressive in the industry. I mean, there's still a lot of conservatism out there, and you know, the windowing that goes on, and the complexity and the rights and everything. It really hasn't started to cater yet to the way consumers want to watch. I mean, you know, a very basic thing is people now want to watch in kind of the binge fashion, right? They want to start with episode 1. You know, just like in a book, you start with chapter 1. You don't want to start with chapter 27. You want to start with chapter 1 in a book. And with TV, you want to start at the first episode, and you want to march all the way through. And maybe, you know, all in one day, but, you know, maybe you don't tend to read 3 or 4 books at a time. You know, most people read 1 or 2 at a time. And same thing with TV shows. You might, you know, you move from show to show to show. And the medium, when you start taking out things like the linear format where, it's whatever it is, 22 minutes a show or 46 minutes a show, and having cliffhangers at the end of the show so people will come back the next week, and having a certain cadence for the commercial breaks, and all of these things are a straitjacket. But when you go to the internet, it becomes more like a book where you can have action-packed chapters, you can have pastoral chapters, you can have long chapters, you can have short chapters, you can, and it can go on forever or it can be short. And, so all of these kind of traditional television format restrictions are starting to break away, and it will ultimately make the television format more compelling. I mean, historically, film has been kind of the cream of entertainment, and I think that's going to change for TV because all of these shackles are coming off, and so television is going to become the superior art form for video.
So this leads to something that Tom Gawecki talked about earlier, which was what I call the discovery problem, right? I mean, there's so much TV out there, and so the question then becomes, well, do I need a Netflix as an aggregator who will put my show on the home page as I open it up? Or do I have the possibility of finding stuff without the help of one of the big aggregators? And I'll start with you, Kathy.
Yeah, that's been a popular meme lately. Two of them. One is, we have too much great content. If you ask any consumer, is there too many things out there to entertain you? You're going to get a resounding no, right? If we think about it purely from the monetization standpoint, the more content there is, the more it makes executives sort of wring their hands, how do I get mine? So again, let's start with the customer. My strong belief and our hypothesis at STX is that television viewing and content viewing is in the midst of its most dramatic change since the awarding of cable licenses. Companies like Roku, and with your Roku 3, Amazon with its Fire, Chromecast, and Apple TV are changing the way people watch content. You are not going to essentially sit in your living room and say, I need to go to the Netflix app. What you're going to do is you're going to say, show me Scandal. And up will come, whether it's on Roku or one of these over-the-top devices, all the places that you can watch Scandal. You're going to see very much that I have it for free on this channel. I already have a subscription here. I have a subscription here. Average customer is paying 2 to 3 times for every piece of content they watch. They just don't realize it. And what Roku and other devices like it are doing is changing that. So discovery is going to go into the hands not just of the individual, but also into communities. So instead of marketing the app, you're going to be marketing the show. You're going to be reaching out to communities of passionate fans, like the fans of Portlandia are a great example, who talk about the episodes every week, who share with their friends, you need to be watching that. And the discovery through metadata, which becomes the big issue of how you create discoverability, is in partnership with people like Steve and his company, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
So, Steve, how do you help us find stuff? I mean, what, from a technological point of view, do you see the future of my discovery where, I don't have to know what network or what place a specific piece of programming a movie is on, but I can just ask my Roku remote app?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for that. I think Tim Cook said the future of television is apps, and we don't actually believe that. We think the future of television is great content, and getting people to that is the most important thing. And to your point about metadata, the TV app ecosystem is a little different than the mobile app ecosystem in that it's really predominantly video apps.
Yeah.
In mobile, there's all kinds of different apps, but in TV, they're basically all video apps, which means they all have metadata associated with them. So we can take all that metadata and kind of roll it up into an umbrella experience and make it really easy to find shows. So we've been the first and really the only ones who have universal and unbiased search, which means that when you go search for a given show, and you can do it by typing on a keyboard on the TV, you can do it by typing on your mobile keyboard, or you can do it by talking with our voice search feature. And when you do that, you get a list of, say you search for a movie, you get a list of all the different locations where that movie is available in order of price. And if you have it for free as part of a subscription, that'll be at the top of the list for you. And we're the only ones who do that kind of thing. And you know, we added a new feature called My Feed recently, and what that does is it allows you to follow shows, actors, directors, you know, keywords. And anytime something new, so if you're waiting for the next episode of Scandal, you're following that show, new episode comes out, it'll show up right at your homepage level and say, hey, there's a new episode, so you just pop right into it. So yeah, the notion of going into an app and out of an app and then over to another app and out of an app as you look for a show is going to start to fade as we add more features like that.
And Steve and I had a conversation before we did this panel, and I heard Steve's view on Tim Cook's The Future is TV is Apps. You know, I think apps, you're exactly right, that indeed apps are not what we think of on our phone. Apps are just little housing units for content. And so when you call up, show me comedies with Zac Efron, the metadata term is Zac Efron, and everything he's ever been in suddenly hops up, and it's the app that actually displays it. It's not like you have to go to the STX app or the Amazon app or the Netflix app, et cetera. The one thing I wanted to add, if I could, is that I did a piece of research a couple of years ago, and we asked 25,000 18 to 34-year-olds, what's your favorite show across any window? And the results were very unremarkable. They looked very much the way a Nielsen would look or a ComScore. But I only asked them one other question, and that's what kind of really changed my worldview. I asked them to correctly identify who made the program or where they watched it. Less than 18% answered correctly. And what that showed me at the end of the day, let's take the show Scandal, which, does anybody watch Scandal here? Yeah, I do. I think it jumped the shark a little bit, but I do still watch it. So the number one answer for Scandal was Netflix. The number two was Hulu. The number three was Amazon. The number four was YouTube. You can't watch on YouTube. The number five was NBC. You can't watch on NBC. Number six was ABC. Now imagine if you're ABC and you've spent all this money, right? How do you feel? But I think we as an industry have kind of done that to ourselves, right? Because we're all about how do we take the last dollar off the table, that we've given up the customer journey. You can only watch this season on platform X. You can only watch the last 3 episodes on platform Y. You can watch all the old seasons, but not the new season on platform Z. So we've done this to ourselves. And so TV viewing with customer and control is changing so radically right now. And I think as an industry, until we're ready, it's not just acceptance, it's about embracing it and seeing it as a huge opportunity that we're really going to be able to make more stories for more people globally.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about monetization, you know, about how producers of content and directors get paid and everything. Wall Street Journal ran an article last Friday saying that the streaming era sets up a battle for TV rights. And basically their point was that when Showtime licenses a show to Hulu, the creators don't get paid the way as if Showtime would have syndicated it out to a third party that they had no investment in. So we're going to see a lot more as these huge conglomerates end up controlling more of the OTT players. We're going to see a lot more of this internal discussion. Do you think this is going to be a problem?
You know, I'd say you're better positioned to talk about rights negotiation, but that's what it boils down to, is the whole rights situation needs to be retooled, I think.
I think, you know, look, streaming is not what's killing the talent. It's executives that are trying to get last dollar. What does a customer want to do? They want to see a thumb-stopping, incredibly engaging story with talent that they love at the lowest possible cost, anytime on any device. It's really simple. That's the entire equation. And at the end of the day, what talent wants, whether you're a writer or a storyteller or an actor or an actress or a musician, is you want your art and your message and your voice to be heard as many people as possible. There's a match there. And so what we need to do, I think, again, in a world of over the top, in a world where artists should be able to go working with the people that are producing their things direct to consumers, there has to be a universe where pay actually goes up. Because as we've seen, markets hate inefficiency. And it is an inefficient market to have the people creating the value and the people who are consuming the value not working together. And that's the entire history of the internet and of what technology has always done, right? That's the promise, is to make the markets more efficient, is to create a closer connection between the creators of value and the consumers of value. And I think that's a future we need to work towards.
Okay, so before we take some questions from the audience, let's just touch on one other subject, which is advertising. As Tom pointed out earlier, if the bundle comes completely undone, we're not going to each have 10 SVOD services, each costing $10 a piece, or we're just back in the same economic. So that means there has to be a role for advertising supported over-the-top services. Anybody got any thoughts? Steve, you want to start?
Yeah, we're working hard on advertising, and it's our fastest growing revenue source, actually, at Roku. You know, the TV ad unit has long been the most impactful ad unit available in the world. And but you know, dollars have been leaking over the digital side because it is targeted, addressable, interactive, accountable, all of these great features. And so we've been partnering with folks like Nielsen and Innovid and some of the data providers and DoubleClick and others to really merge the two so that you have all of the benefits for the advertiser of the internet with the addressability and interactivity, but you still have the awesome ad unit. And what that does is it actually helps consumers at the end of the day, honestly, because in an untargeted world, you're all getting the diaper commercials, you're all getting the pet food commercials, you're all getting these commercials that you don't care about. And the truth is that the 2.5-minute commercial pod cannot last. It's got to go down to a 1 minute or even a 30-second commercial pod. So if through targeting, we're able to just clear out all the stuff that doesn't matter to you and really just show the most impactful ads, the ad industry isn't losing anything. They're just getting rid of waste is all they're doing. They're no longer paying for impressions that are unuseful. And the consumer is benefiting because you don't have to see so many commercials. And then on top of that, we're doing a lot more integrated types of campaigns. Like we have been doing campaigns with a lot of the networks and big advertisers where we do things like we're coming out with a campaign soon with Subaru that's tied with the work they're doing with the national park. So the whole background of the Roku user interface can be turned on to be this kind of beautiful national park pastoral scene that's sponsored and given to you by Subaru. So it's not just jamming 30-second spots into TVs, but it's more of a holistic kind of experience.
Okay, question.
Hi, my name is Beth Hummer, and I have a question going back to something you talked about a little bit earlier, searching. So the problem I have when I search for a show or something to entertain me is I don't know what I'm looking for. Yeah. So the way you used to solve that problem, you go to the library, you talk to the librarian for 5 or 10 minutes, and the librarian would say, oh, I recommend this, 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 and this. In this digital world where there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of junk, frankly, how do you search to find entertainment that is worth your spending time on?
I don't think there's ever going to be a replacement for human curation, even though I've spent 20 of my 30 years working for consumer technology companies. I'm a big believer that there is no substitution for taste. But taste is also very personal and very relevant. And so as you look at some of the development plans of what these platforms are doing, is you will see a lot of the over-the-top apps, for instance, not only give you ways of discovering by actor or actress or genre, but also by community. So there are probably people in your friend circle or in your professional circle that you think have awesome taste. Show me everything that Ron watches on a given night. There might be, or show me everything tonight that Seth MacFarlane is watching, because I think he's super funny. So I want to know all of the things that he's curating. Those are all ways that you'll find discovery What you probably don't want to do is to say, show me everything where we got maximum rights coverage in an SVOD window. That's not a human behavior, right? And that gets at my point.
Yeah. I mean, search isn't something that you use when you don't know what you want, right? Search is for the use case where they know something, and then our job is to get what they're looking for to them as quickly and easily as possible. But you're talking about the whole other thing of discovery, and that's things like recommendations. And really the big shift there is social, and integrating social into the television experience will, I think, be a big help. But candidly, a lot of that just happens not on the TV. And so the more common use case is that folks have something in mind by the time they get to the TV, and then our job is to really help them get to it quickly. But if you don't know what to watch, pull up your phone and look around, go on the PC, look around, ask your friends. Social media is a great way to do that, but we do need to make more progress integrating the social media on the TV.
Do I have time to get back to one question? Are we done?
Actually, our time is up.
Okay.
The lights are blinking. Thanks, Steve and Kathy. Now let's bring back Kasia to talk about a woman who's gone from YouTube stardom to the immensely successful creative team at BuzzFeed Video.
Thank you.